Hey Dungeon Masters, do you feel like your players know all of the tricks because they themselves are Dungeon Masters? So any encounter that you throw at them, they're already calculating the CR, how much damage is required, what the best tactics are, and everything is just too easy mentally for your players. If you feel this way, I have a possible solution for you. Legendary actions and lairs are not only reserved for the big bad bosses, but you can sprinkle them into all of your encounters just to add little oomph to the game so that your players will be caught unaware. Stay tuned for my tips. Before we begin, there's no need for note-taking because we have an accompanying article on our website, flutesloot.com. The link is in the description below, and while you're down there, please like and subscribe our video. Then we'll know what kind of content you're interested in. So follow along with the article, pull it up, and let's begin. So imagine you send your players into a goblin stronghold. Your players could handle quite a few of them together. Goblins are only challenge rating 1/4. So this is looking like a pretty easy encounter. Even if they're only fighting a few at a time, there's not much to it, just hack and slash, right? While there are other ways to engage your players in a combat like this, I think one great way is to add lair actions and lair effects. For instance, these goblins are defending their own home. They should have some knowledge about the terrain, where all the little nooks and crannies are that they can put mechanical traps, or maybe it's there's a tunnel from one side of the room to the other that's hidden from the players, but goblins can kind of shoot and run, shoot an arrow and then run through the tunnel to the other side. Goblins are known for their attack and run tactics. And if they have something like Alchemist Fire as an action once per turn, that can add a lot of intrigue to this adventure. Any magical or non-magical creature fighting on their own turf should have some home advantage, and that is not included in the mechanics as written already. The rules don't say a goblin in their stronghold gets +2 bonus to attack or anything like that, so you have to find a way to manage this yourself. There are 3 specific modes of mechanics that I say fit well into this category. We've got lair terrain, which includes any unique terrain, such as, for instance, the nooks and crannies that I mentioned, or perhaps the goblins know where an ice pool is or something in their stronghold, and they can lure the players in there and trap them there or something. Or moving past the goblin example, this could be icy caves, subterranean chambers, a labyrinth jungle, a cloudy mountain peak, volcanic caves, marshy woods, etc. From the basic rules, we know that specific monsters already get lair actions and terrain abilities, such as the aboleth, dragons, wyrmlings, and unicorns. So the lair terrains are sort of where they've built their home, and it should be somewhere cool and unique. The second mechanic would be a lair action, and this is any kind of ambient magic that has existed while this creature has lived in this place for so long. For instance, dragons could live hundreds of years. They've shaped the land and the home around them so that there's magical effects happening. Typically, a creature that has a lair action has 2 to 4 available to them and may only use 1 per round. This lair action is triggered on initiative count 20 and losing to a tie. And it can include things such as spellcasting abilities without requiring spell slots or components, environmental effects like icicles falling from the ceiling, or gaseous clouds overtaking the room, or something even like self-healing. The third mechanic is a regional effect, so this extends out beyond their own lair and into the world immediately around them. Because they've spent so much time in this land, their magic once again is not only affecting their lair, but even the city, the forest, the mountains surrounding them. And these effects are a little more benign. They're maybe it's just the powerful creature can see what's going on in this reach that they have. There could be curses plaguing the lands. One example is non-magical fires can't be lit in this area. The weather could be controlled by a creature such as a dragon. And maybe the creature even has telepathy in this area, this region. So let's go over some description of lairs that I particularly like, and maybe this can spark some inspiration for you for how to develop a lair for a creature for yourself. This doesn't have to be a creature that already has a lair or lair action available, but this might give you an idea of how to set up terrain around your creature that would have some kind of feasible effect because of what's around them. So for instance, an adult black dragon, it says, a black dragon's lair is a dismal cave, grotto, or ruin that is at least partially flooded, providing pools where the dragon rests, and where its victims can ferment. The lair is littered with the acid-pitted bones of previous victims and the fly-ridden carcasses of fresh kills, watched over by crumbling statues, centipedes, scorpions, and snakes which infest the lair. This is filled with a stench of death and decay. An adult green dragon. Forest controlled by a green dragon is easy to spot. A perpetual fog hangs in the air in a legendary green dragon's woods, carrying an acrid whiff of the creature's poison breath. The moss-covered trees grow close together except where the winding pathways trace their way like a maze into the heart of the forest. The light that reaches the forest floor carries an emerald green cast, and every sound seems muffled. So not only is there a home for this specified creature, but the surrounding lands are influenced by its presence and possible magic. So now, why would you use a legendary effect? I sort of already said that it's a way to improve your encounters so that you are more surprising to your players, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. Let's say you've got a party and they're super adept and anything you throw at them is just easy money because they're just super optimized in what they've done. You can upscale your encounter without changing out any beasts by giving them 1 or 2 legendary effects, or lair actions, or regional effects. Do you have a specific monster that you need to distinguish from its other allies? Maybe you've got one goblin who is the ringleader, and he's possibly visibly indistinguishable from the goblins around him, but if you give him some extra bonus effects, some legendary effects, or legendary actions, I think the players would take note of him, and perhaps they can find a way to end the battle earlier, or to take this goblin king hostage to save the souls of the other goblins or something like that. And not only does it increase the encounter or give your players something to focus on, but it also gives your players a threat that allows them to find clever solutions and strategy. While a few legendary actions can seem more intimidating to your players because suddenly you've subverted their expectations of the encounter. They don't know what's possible anymore, and so mechanically maybe their legendary actions aren't as bad as a player might think it is, but they have no idea what's possible now. It seems like the rules have flown out the window. In the article that I've linked below, you can see my tables for all of the legendary actions that exist on basic source document monsters. I've also included some of our own ideas about legendary actions that are pretty balanced, hopefully balanced. So let's talk more about the mechanics about what a legendary action might look like. There are usually 1 to 3 legendary action options available for a creature, and they all have different costs to use per round. So in one given round, a monster might have between 1 to 3 to maybe even 5 if you're fighting something incredibly insane. But you have that many number of legendary points to use, and each action will have a cost, 1, 2, 3, etc. Typically, each action costs 1 point, unless otherwise stated, and there can only be 1 legendary action used at a time. Legendary actions can only be used at the end of another creature's turn, so either someone from your party or perhaps the creature's own allies. And at the start of its next turn, it gains back all of those costs to reuse for the round. So, for example, an adult black dragon has 3 legendary options: Detect, Tail Attack, and Wing Attack. So Detect and Tail Attack both cost 1, but Wing Attack is more powerful, it does more damage, so it costs 2. So on round 1, let's say player 1 makes an attack against the black dragon. At the end of that player's turn, a black dragon could use one of the effects. It could do a Detect, a Tail Attack, or a Wing Attack. If it does Tail Attack, it has 2 more points to use for the whole round. So on the end of another creature's turn, It could do another detect, another tail attack, or one wing attack. But once it uses all 3 of its allotted points, it can't use a legendary action until the end of its next turn, and it can't do it until the next creature's turn on that round, I guess, because it can't do it on its own turn. This is based on turns, so if someone makes an opportunity attack against the Black Dragon, I believe that would be another turn in which the Black Dragon could use a legendary action, but it can't do it on its own turn at the end of its own turn. So there's no real good way to calculate how adding legendary actions and effects can upscale a challenge rating, but we can kind of use the experience point value table from Wizards of the Coast and look at similar examples of monsters to see just how effective legendary actions are. So let's compare some challenge rating 10 creatures. An Aboleth, which already has legendary actions. Let's do a Diva, a Stone Golem, and a Young Gold Dragon. All of these creatures are challenge rating 10. The Young Gold Dragon and the Aboleth both have lairs, but only the Aboleth has legendary action. So let's compare them real quick and just kind of see what the range is for like damage and such. An Aboleth has an armor class of 17 and 135 hit points, and they receive a +9 to hit. It can take 3 tentacle attacks on its turn, which does 12 damage per hit, and a Constitution saving throw, or the target becomes diseased, which comes into effect in 10 rounds or 1 minute. An Aboleth could make a tail attack for 15 damage, or 3 times per day, an Aboleth could attempt to charm a target DC 14 and take them under control. So it has a few abilities to incapacitate players, as well as deal plenty of damage. And each round, an Aboleth could do a legendary action, such as another tail attack, or a Psychic Drain, which is 10 damage, on a charmed creature, which also allows the Aboleth to regain hit points. Lair actions also contribute to the damage of the players. These happen once per round, and it could be forcing a target to focus on a Phantasmal Force illusion for their turn, using water to pull in or knock targets prone, or attacking with water for 7 damage. So the range of damage for the Aboleth is anywhere between 25 and 70 damage points per round, plus removing 1 charmed person from combat and stealing another's action. The Diva has an AC of 17 as well, and it has 136 hit points. They also receive a +8 to hit. Divas may make 2 melee attacks for 25 total magical damage. They have non-combative spellcasting and advantage to saving throws against spells and magical effects. They may heal 20 hit points to any creature, and they may polymorph into any creature of its own CR or lower, but they will retain their hit points. So let's assume that they become a Tyrannosaurus Rex and have +10 to hit and do 26 damage per round. That seems like one of the greater options. So a typical round of combat for Diva will result in about 50 points of damage, or healing itself 20 points. For the Stone Golem, they have an AC of 17 and 178 hit points, which is a little more than the other two. They receive a +10 to hit. Stone Golems have straightforward turns. Their forms can't be altered. They have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects, and their weapons are magic. A Stone Golem can make 2 slam attacks for 19 damage each, and it can debuff a player's speed, reaction, or action economy with a 1/3 chance of recharging. So the typical round of combat would be 38 damage, or reducing a target's abilities. Now the Gold Dragon is a little more intense. They've got an AC of 18 and 178 hit points. They also have a +10 to hit. A typical young Gold Dragon's turn includes 3 attacks for 43 damage, Fire Breath for 55 damage per target in a 30-foot cone with a DC of 17, or a debuff DC 17 for disadvantage on strength saving throws and ability checks. The range of damage for a young Gold Dragon per round, depending on how many creatures that it hits in that cone of fire, could be from 43 minimum to potentially 55 times 21 medium-sized creatures, if they all fail their saving throws. So this is a huge amount of damage possible per round. Lair effects on a young Gold Dragon may also allow it advantage on saving throws and ability checks, or to banish a target to a dream plane until the next round. So check out this table, and we're kind of comparing how these things add up. We're looking at damage per round from as low as 25 to as high as thousands. But feasibly, I would say that any of these creatures could have challenge rating 10, 25 damage per round, incapacitating players, healing themselves, and doing, tons of damage. And that's a huge range, all within the same challenge rating. So, point illustrated is that when you are giving creatures lair abilities, lair effects, or lair actions, don't be too worried. Maybe look at what the minimum damage is if they use their lowest ability, their least effective ability, to the greatest amount of damage possible. And if it fits within the realm of another creature of the same challenge rating, you're probably fine. You can leave the challenge rating the same. If it's on the higher end of damage, you could even increase the challenge rating by 1 or something. So for more ideas on legendary actions that you can give your creatures or any creature in your campaign, you can reference the table at the bottom of the article. I'll just go over a couple of them pretty quickly. So some examples of legendary actions, and these are actions that can be taken at the end of another creature's turn, include making a perception check, making a tail swipe or a claw attack, or a tentacle attack, or they can fling the creature. They could also cast a cantrip. This is something that the Lich can do. They can just make one of their regular attacks. They can throw blinding dust. The Mummy Lord CR15 does this, where they magically swirl sand around a creature, and every creature within 5 feet of that creature must succeed on a DC 16 Constitution saving throw or be blinded until the end of the creature's next turn. Creatures can move up to half of its speed or make an unarmed strike or a hoof attack if they have hoofs. They could teleport. The Kraken can make a lightning storm, and this creature is CR 23, so this isn't something to mess with. They can magically create 3 bolts of lightning and then strike at targets who have to make DC 23 dexterity saving throws, taking up to 22 lightning damage if they fail. The Lich can also use a paralyzing touch. The Mummy Lord can make a blasphemous word. A Solar can make a searing burst of light, which does radiant damage. A Tarrasque can chomp, uses bite, and then swallow a creature. A Unicorn can create a magical field of a shield that gives everyone a +2 bonus AC. So if you've got a creature who's maybe benevolent on your team and you want to just make them a little more powerful, or maybe they gain a boon or something, they could even have these auras of effect that boost up AC or saving throws or ability checks and so forth. Vampires can bite, which nobody likes. The Sphinxes can cast a spell, and this costs all 3 of their actions for the round. A Kraken can release an ink cloud. A Lich can disrupt life, which affects the undead around them, such that they take a lot of necrotic damage. Solars can also do like a blinding gaze, and unicorns can restore hit points. Some of our ideas for legendary actions: a creature can cast a level 1 spell without any components. A target must make a intelligence saving throw or take psychic damage, and then the creature that did this ability can regain those hit points. A creature could embolden its allies and give everybody advantage against being frightened or charmed or put to sleep, or advantage on ability checks. A creature could cause a swarm of insects to appear and make it hard to see. A creature could summon a beast of CR 2 or lower. A creature can move up to its speed and then make an attack. A creature could weave a web around itself, and any target within that area must make a strength saving throw or get stuck for their turn. We have a lot of other ideas, so please check out the article. As for lair actions and regional effects, there are a lot of really cool actions that can happen, and these occur on initiative count 20, losing ties, and it's only 1 per round. An Aboleth can cast Phantasmal Force without components on any creature it can see within 60 feet of itself in the lair. It's like, that's pretty scary for a CR10. It can also create pools of water within 90 feet of its creature, which surge out and push away other creatures. Water can become a conduit for the creature's rage, and any number of people standing inside of water could take tons of psychic damage, or just 7 psychic damage. It's not a ton. A swarm of insects could fill the cavern or the lair within 20 feet of the creature, making everything slightly obscured so that everyone gets disadvantage on their attacks or ranged attacks or something. Magical darkness could spread from a creature. Part of the ceiling could collapse. A cloud of sand could swirl for 20-foot radius away from the creature, causing blindness for a minute. Lightning can shoot from wherever the creature is standing. A strong wind could blow throughout the lair. Fog can emanate throughout the place. Stone spikes can rise from the ground. A 10-foot square that the creature points to can turn to mud and restrain people. A creature could glimpse into the future. This is an ability that the Gold Dragon has, and it can get advantage on saving throws, ability checks, and attack rolls until the next initiative count 20. There are a lot of lair actions available from the source material, and there are a lot of regional effects that are super cool too, such as creatures native to the unicorn's domain have an easier time hiding when within their regional effect, which is like 6 miles or something from its lair. I don't know. Icy walls could block off a section of the lair for the white dragon. Freezing precipitation falls within 6 miles of a lair for the white dragon, sometimes forming blizzards whenever the white dragon is asleep. Chilly fog could obscure the land. Water sources of the lair of the red dragon could be tainted with sulfur. Small earthquakes might be common as well. Rodents and birds of the green dragon act as the creature's eyes and ears of the land and can kind of relay information to this creature about what's going on in its domain. For the gold dragon, gems and pearls within 1 mile of its lair sparkle and gleam and shed a 5-foot radius of light. For the bronze dragon, intelligent creatures within 1 mile of its lair are prone to fits of giggling. Those are just some ideas. I hope that this video has provided some insight on how you can upscale an adventure or make it more interesting for your players who are DMs themselves and maybe have seen it all and want something more challenging. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. We love communicating with the D&D community, so drop us a comment, and I think we have 100% response rate right now. Maybe spam us and try to prove us wrong. So until next time, Dungeon Masters, I wish you have great campaigns and happy adventuring.